After you submitted your application and you were selected and notified that you were selected for interviews with firms, how did you go about preparing for your interviews? Also sort of juggling, sometimes folks have a number of interviews while they're also trying to attend their classes and other responsibilities. How did that work out for you?
Well, it was kind of shocking at first because I would get a notification that I had been selected for an interview, which was awesome, but then the interview times conflicted with classes.
Definitely tell your professors ahead of time that you'll be leaving class if you have to for an interview. They'll completely understand. Most of them encourage you and want you to find a job, and so that will be no problem. Just give them a heads up.
I think if you, let professors know in advance, I might have an interview, and as long as you're taking time to put in time to prep for the interview, you should be more than prepared.
How did you go about preparing for your interviews?
I thought the mock interview was really helpful. It really allows you to settle in and talk to them and have a sort of conversation implicit in this interview that kind of underlies the interview, and then they're really happy to give feedback back at the end as well.
As far as preparing for the interview itself, Simplicity would list the attorney who would come to interview you.
Usually I think it lists who your interviewer is going to be, and so you can then specifically go on the firm webpage and look at that person, look at their background.
Just looking at what their practice areas were gave me a good idea of what questions I could ask the interviewers during the process.
And having a cheat sheet is crucial, especially if you do have several different interviews in a day, or if you go from one to another. Sometimes you don't remember the person's name that you're interviewing with, or you're panicking. You're like, wait, which interview am I going for? So you have to have that in front of you. The name of the firm you're interviewing with, the person, what you liked about that firm, maybe the cover letter that you wrote for them, so that you can read that over really quick, just so you know what you emphasized. But definitely bring some materials with you to review right before.
So I had a resume where I had the copy that I'd given to them, and then also some notes written on my own resume, so I'd have talking points about everything that I had done.
I also put on that cheat sheet just the 3 to 5 things I wanted to make sure I said about myself at some point during the interview.
When you're in the interview process, you'll inevitably get the question, what areas of law are you interested in, or why do you want to work for our firm? And I think the easier part of the answer is that first part. Well, I want to do health law, I want to do, civil litigation, whatever. But it's really important to have a because and have some really specific reason.
I just kind of tried to sort of get my whole story put together. Why did I come to law school? What did I do beforehand? How did that lead me to law school? What do I want to do when I'm done? I just tried to have kind of a compelling story that was honest, but also that sort of made sense with all my application materials.
I found that I really did try to be honest about what I was interested in, which sometimes meant not saying yes, I want to do anything, when really the answer was, no, I'm really interested in this. Because for one thing, that shows that you're thoughtful and that you're genuine in what you say, but it also, I think it reflects commitment, is yes, this person has thought through the process and they are really interested in what they're telling me, and so I can sort of count on the fact that they're going to be excited about that if I were to hire them.
The key thing that I was told in the mock interview was ask them as many questions about themselves as possible. Make this about you asking questions about how you can learn more about them, more about the firm, more about the kind of work they do.
For me, the most important part of the interview is where you ask questions to the interviewer, and that's, I think, the best time to show that you've done your research about the firm, that you've thought about how you're going to fit in to the firm, and just that you're diligent in preparing ahead of time, and that you can kind of get into their heads and think about what it's like to be an attorney and what it's like to be an attorney specifically at that firm.
I think the resources are there in career services, and I would definitely use them. I know I set up a meeting about once a week. I would meet with just to discuss my resume, a meeting the next week to discuss my cover letter, a meeting the next week just to discuss interviewing, and I found that super helpful. So I know that you can set up those appointments online through Simplicity. It's super easy, and 20 or 30 minutes a week just to work on career planning, looking for a job. It can go a long way.